Everything is stocked. I'm finishing up her last bottle before we settle in for the night, and fingers crossed for a good stretch of sleep.
Not every Bates family update creates the same kind of conversation. Katie Bates recently shared what appeared to be a heartfelt message about faith, healing, and gratitude, while Whitney Bates offered followers a simple glimpse into life with baby Lily. On the surface, neither post seemed particularly controversial. But while Whitney's update left followers smiling over how quickly her newest daughter is growing, Katie's post sparked a completely different reaction. What began as a message about miracles quickly turned into a debate about whether it's even possible to know you're living through one. Katie's video wasn't built around a major announcement. There was no dramatic reveal, no shocking confession, and no headline-making update. Instead, the post felt unusually personal. Set to Torrin Wells' song, What a Miracle Feels Like, the video stitched together quiet family moments featuring Katie, Travis, and their daughter. Beach scenes, everyday memories, and simple snapshots of family life filled the screen. Yet despite the peaceful imagery, many followers immediately sensed there was a deeper message behind it. That feeling became even stronger once people read the caption. Katie wrote, "Even in the middle, I'm singing my God. This is what a miracle feels like." It wasn't the kind of caption people quickly scroll past. In fact, one particular detail stood out. Katie didn't describe a miracle that had already happened. She described something she believed she was experiencing right now. The phrase, "in the middle," subtly changed the entire meaning. Rather than celebrating a completed chapter, she appeared to be expressing gratitude while still living through the process. For many followers, that message carried significant emotional weight. Katie never directly explained what she was referring to, but she didn't necessarily need to. Over the past several months, viewers have watched conversations surrounding her marriage, her family, and the challenges that became public. Because of that history, many followers immediately connected the video to the difficult season she and Travis have been navigating. The result was a comment section filled with encouragement, prayers, and personal stories from people who felt they understood exactly what Katie was trying to say. Many Instagram followers viewed the post as a testimony rather than a simple family update. Some praised her for continuing to trust God through uncertainty. Others focused on themes of forgiveness, healing, and perseverance. A number of comments suggested that her willingness to share even a small glimpse of her journey was already helping people facing struggles of their own. The word miracle appeared repeatedly throughout the responses, often accompanied by messages about grace, restoration, and hope. To many viewers, the video wasn't about pretending everything was perfect. It was about finding reasons to remain grateful, despite knowing life is rarely perfect. But interestingly, the real conversation didn't begin on Instagram. It began after screenshots started appearing on Reddit. And once they did, the focus shifted almost immediately. Reddit users weren't talking about the beach footage. They weren't discussing the family moments. They weren't even debating the song. Instead, nearly the entire conversation centered around a single word buried in the caption: miracle. For some commenters, that word felt premature. Many users argued that it was simply too early to know whether the situation deserved that description. Their skepticism wasn't necessarily directed toward Katie herself. Instead, it centered on timing. Several commenters pointed out that healing, rebuilding trust, and recovering from difficult circumstances often take far longer than people expect. In their view, celebrating a miracle while still in the early stages of recovery felt risky because the final outcome remains unknown. Others took the discussion a step further by focusing on Travis. Some users questioned whether enough time had passed to demonstrate lasting change. Their argument wasn't that positive progress couldn't happen. Rather, they believed long-term growth is something measured over years, not months. For those commenters, the issue wasn't whether Katie seemed happy in the present moment. It was whether that happiness would remain stable once the emotional intensity of the current season eventually faded. Another group of Reddit users interpreted the post in an entirely different way. Rather than seeing someone celebrating a miracle, they saw someone trying to hold on to hope. Several commenters suggested that the video felt less like a declaration of victory and more like an attempt to remain optimistic. Some even described it as Katie choosing faith over fear while still navigating uncertainty. Whether supportive or skeptical, nearly every interpretation arrived at the same conclusion: the story wasn't finished yet. And that's what made the discussion so fascinating. Instagram and Reddit were looking at the exact same video, yet they seemed to be watching two completely different stories unfold. One audience saw healing, the other saw caution. One audience focused on gratitude, the other focused on unanswered questions. Neither side was reacting to different information. They were simply drawing different conclusions from the same message. While that debate continued online, Whitney Bates was creating a completely different kind of conversation. Unlike Katie's post, Whitney's latest update wasn't built around a larger message or emotional reflection. Instead, it focused on something far more relatable: surviving life with a newborn. Yet what made the post stand out wasn't the routine itself. It was the reaction from followers who suddenly realized just how quickly baby Lily is growing. Anyone who follows Whitney knows that she rarely turns everyday family life into something overly dramatic. Her latest video continued that trend. She shared a glimpse into the nightly routine that helps her manage life with a newborn, drawing on experience gained from raising 6 children. Throughout the video, Whitney showed the small preparations she makes before bedtime to make those inevitable middle-of-the-night wake-ups a little easier. But viewers quickly became distracted from the routine itself. Instead, they couldn't stop talking about Lily. Comment after comment focused on the same observation: Lily is getting big fast. For many followers, it felt like only yesterday that Whitney was introducing her newest daughter. Now, viewers were looking at a baby who already seemed noticeably bigger, more alert, and more expressive. Even members of the Bates family noticed the change. Carlin Bates pointed out how quickly Lily has grown, while countless followers echoed the exact same sentiment. That reaction transformed the comment section into something surprisingly nostalgic. Parents began sharing stories about their own children and how quickly the newborn phase disappeared. Some talked about missing those late-night moments, despite remembering how exhausting they were. Others reflected on how impossible it felt to slow time down once children started growing. The conversation became less about routines and more about the universal experience of realizing that childhood moves far faster than anyone expects. Of course, followers also had plenty of questions. Some were curious about how Whitney manages nighttime feedings while caring for 5 older children. Others wanted to know more about her daily schedule and how she stays organized. Many simply admired her ability to handle such a busy household while maintaining a calm and approachable presence online. Throughout the comments, viewers repeatedly described her as patient, relatable, and down-to-earth. What stood out most, however, was how naturally the post resonated with people. There was no controversy, no debate, and no major announcement driving the engagement. Instead, the strongest reactions came from something much simpler: watching a baby grow and realizing how quickly time passes. In a social media landscape often dominated by drama and headlines, that kind of reaction can sometimes feel surprisingly refreshing. Together, Katie's and Whitney's posts revealed two very different sides of life within the Bates family. Katie's update sparked conversations about faith, healing, trust, and whether it's possible to recognize a miracle while still living through uncertainty. Whitney's update reminded followers of something far simpler but equally meaningful. Some of a life's biggest changes happen quietly, one ordinary day at a time. One post left people debating the future, the other left people looking back and wondering where the time went. And in their own ways, both managed to create exactly the kind of conversation that keeps followers coming back to see what happens next.